I'm very blessed. My parents have been married for 47 years. They're still very much in love with each other. They're very happy. Even with my wider family, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, happy marriages, right? So I'm in an environment where I'm fortunate to be able to see lots of positive examples of this institution working well, right? I'm also from a Nigerian background. I'm not like totally westernized. I grew up in Saudi Arabia in the Middle East. So my perspective is not kind of the same as someone who just was born and raised in California or in London or whatever. But I see what's going on. And the thing is, even from the conservative perspective, like all conservatives are very pro marriage, pro family. We need to bring back the family unit. We need to, and if you want to do that seriously beyond just talking, you have to understand why are young men skeptical about marriage now? Why are so many relationships not going the distance? What's going on? Because the way it is right now, we're in this bizarre situation where legally and socially, there's one foot in this sort of progressive secular world, and then the other foot in the traditional, more religiously influenced world. And it doesn't mix well. So if you look at the laws around, whether it's divorce, alimony, child custody, the way that these things are written and also the way that they work out in practice, it's all based on this sort of like 1950s idea of, the man is the sole breadwinner. The woman's going to be destitute if, if the marriage fails. Alimony needs to be paid by the church. It's all based on, a sort of code of chivalry almost, right? It's based on that old school world. But then there's also now, complete no fault divorce. And there's just, culturally, girl, if you're not happy, just like go, just,
Right.
it's so these things don't blend well. It's like you kind of have to pick one or the other. When I look at the marriages that work very well, it's typically conservative religious framing, right? Conservative religious people, and they're doing it just by the book. Gender roles. This is what the man does. This is what the woman does. Boom, till death do us apart. We don't really care about the state. This is before God, and neither of us are going to break that, and that works. But this sort of mix of the two, where people are trying to have their cake and eat it too, and you want to be a, strong, independent women, but you also want to have the husband there, but you don't really need him, but you also, I don't know. It's not working. And I think unless unless people are willing to talk about it and say, oh, okay, let's talk to these guys in their 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s,
Yeah, but
even
when you
in their
start having those
teens.
conversations, then the female first primary social order starts to push back, and they say things like, "So, what do you want to do? You want us to go back to the 1950s? You want us to go back to a place in time where women were just property and they didn't have independence and they didn't have the ability to go and earn and make money?" It's like, all right, here we go, and it's like they want to take you to this like weird zone that we're never going to go back to.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. But I mean, you were talking about the numbers before when it comes to things like marriage, and you've got like the religious component, you've got the cultural issues, you've got well, my family, my extended family, and all that family, it works well, and we've done it forever, and they've been married and love and all that sort of stuff. But that's an old social contract that doesn't really exist today. I mean, one of the strongest indicators that you're choosing a good, we'll just call it wife stock, like a good mother for your kids, like good wife stock, would be a woman that hasn't been promiscuous in her past. There's a study out there, I think it's called the Teachman study, and I think it tracks the data. There's one that tracks it up to a dozen past partners, and there's one that tracks it up to, I think, 25 or something like that. But either way, the data is conclusive that if you invite a woman into your life as a wife that has been with nobody, she's a virgin, she is yours, and that is it, the chances of you getting divorced after 8 years is something like 5%. It's very, very low. Even after, I think, four past partners, the data starts to drop to like 40, 50, and it just gets worse from there. Like the chance of you getting divorced after 7 or 8 years, if she's had four partners, is something like 40 or 50% higher than a woman that's a virgin. And where do you find these women that don't have promiscuous past today if they've been told for decades through culture and society, you go girl, men and women are equal, if men can be promiscuous then women can too without consequence. And you see this all the time on these shows, these podcasts where these guys sit down with a table full of women and they don't really solve anything or get to any answers. All they do is they seem to make an example of today's modern women, and they call them today's modern women, who just will unapologetically sit there and be like, I'm going to do what I want to do. I don't need no man. I'm happy being single. If a guy doesn't want to choose me, I don't care if he doesn't like my past. So you've got this spread where you've got men that are rational, deductive thinkers that are looking for solutions to their reproductive strategies in their life, and whether or not they want to have a family or not. And some of them are just putting their hands up and just being like, I'm out. It's just not worth competing. I can't compete. If I do compete, then I put my entire net worth at risk and potentially lose access. Like, one of the most devastating things that happens to men that go through divorce, and only men that have been through divorce that lost to that game, is the whole sales pitch to getting married and have kids is you pass on your name, you pass on your DNA, you leave a legacy behind. And if that can be stolen from you because family law or the state has legislation written into it that's so hostile towards fathers that she can take the kids primarily or even, conclusively, and alienate him from his own children while he is robbed at his point of deposit. So his paycheck, let's say, where he's garnished, and it all goes to her and she just uses the money to alienate him from his kids. Like, that's a reality for a lot of men today. It's a sad reality because they signed up for, for never, never, sickness and health till death do us part and all that sort of stuff. And they don't get that at the end of the day. And there's no protective mechanisms there in place for men. So men are now saying, well, is it worth it? Should I even do it? What do I do about this? What are potential solutions? There's certain things that you can do to minimize the risk, obviously. Select a partner that doesn't have a whole bunch of red flags. Like, one of the more controversial chapters in my book is the 20 red flag chapter. You don't even have to buy the book. You can get it for free if you go to my email list and just opt in. But I break down the most obvious red flags that I've seen over the last few years with my experience, the guys that I've consulted, the guys that call in on my podcast. And it's always the same sort of stuff. It's like, this is damage. Like, these are bruises. These are wounds that women carry that, yes, you can invite them into your life. Yes, you can marry them. A lot of guys do. But the chances you complicating your life unnecessarily and putting your wealth, your access to your kids in the future at risk also go up dramatically as well. So you tend to want to avoid those. And then the big argument guys have is, well, you're basically describing a man, because if she doesn't have any of those red flags, then that's a dude. Yeah, like, you get the you get the notion. It's a very difficult conversation. And my granddad never had that conversation.
No,
he never had that problem. There was no social media. There was no OnlyFans. There was no seeking arrangements. There was no, you go girl and do whatever you want. None of that existed. I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here, and pin down below in the top comment, you'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.